Okay, there we go. Good morning. How is everybody doing? It is like 6:40. I'm actually a little late getting out of the house to head to work. And, you know, just like normal people, we do have to go to work. But I just wanted to say good morning and get this started off right, trying to figure out how to hold this. This is ridiculous. But anywho, just running out the door, getting ready to go to work. I thought I'd say hi. So howdy, back again. I just got done with work today. It's like 2:30, and I am about to head home and get ready to start my physical therapy, eat some lunch, all of that fun stuff. Lord knows I have a ton of videos to sit here and edit, and much less figure out how to edit. Howdy friends! This is not a video of me working out. I have found that I have a tendency to bring the camera with me but then leave the battery at home on the charger, and that is exactly what I did this day. So I figured I'd just kind of go through and tell you what I did with my workout and then a little bit about why I do those things. I told you that this was a leg day, and I am currently doing a hypertrophy type workout. Hypertrophy is when you are trying to build your muscle. Muscles typically build at a certain number of sets versus reps, and I'm trying to build them, not just make them stronger, which is a completely different type of workout. So on average, for most of these exercises that I'm going to tell you about, I ended up doing about 3 to 4 sets with about 15 to 20 reps, depending upon the exercise and what weight that I could do with it. I usually start off my leg days with a pretty dynamic stretching routine, a lot of movement-based exercises that are no weight at all, just to get the blood pumping and to really get the joints with a little bit of motion in them and warm up my body. Once I've gone through that routine, then I have an exercise band that is a full round band that I wrap around my ankles, and then I start side steps as well as forward and back steps. I usually do that in about 3 to 4 sets of 30 steps, forward and back and then side to side. That really gets my legs ready as well as my glutes ready for the workout that I'm about to do. To really get the body warmed up, I like to increase my temperature. To increase my temperature, instead of doing the stair stepper like I normally do on my other days, this exercise I really want to focus on increasing the temperature and then the amount of blood flow into my glutes and my legs. So then that way we can really start that building process with a snap. I usually end up going over and picking up some kettlebells, depending upon what's available and kind of what I'm feeling that day. A lot of my workouts are based on how I feel. You don't want to go in and sling around a bunch of weight when you're really just not feeling up for it, and you could be doing that on a different day when you're a little more high energy. But I started off with my leg exercises with sumo squats, and then going directly into a curtsy squat, or a curtsy lunge. Everybody calls it something different. And I'll have the kettlebell in the middle on the sumo squat, and then I pick up 2 smaller ones of the same weight as that first kettlebell, and then do the curtsy off to either side. And depending upon what I'm trying to do that day, how heavy I'm planning on going, and how much my energy is, then I'll usually do that for about 30 seconds each, back and forth until I can feel my temperature up. Or if I'm trying to go a little bit heavier, a little bit harder, about a minute each, back and forth between the two. I don't use it as like a cardio thing. I used to do like a plyometric exercise, but because my knees are still healing, it's just not an option. This is the closest I can get while still being nice on the knees. And if you think that those are really nice exercises, I understand. Again, we're going about this in a non-traditional way of my rehabilitation therapy on my knees. Let's see, then my actual exercise that I did, actual weighted exercise to really start working, is the box squat. Sometimes if a box is available, I'll use that. If there's a ball available, I'll use that. Or if there's just a bench, that's kind of just based on the day, how busy it is. This time specifically, I ended up using a bench. I don't like to use the barbell on my shoulders for that one. It tends to rub a little bit where my headphones are, and it's not very comfortable. So I take 2 dumbbells and I set them up on my shoulders, and then I try to force my weight backwards just a little bit to keep my posture up nice and high. Then it looks like I went into donkey kicks. On a lot of these exercises, I know you can't really see what I have written here. On a lot of these exercises, I have points made on the time under tension. Your time under tension is how long the muscle is working. So say you're doing a bicep curl, that's how long it takes you to pull the bicep up with the weight, hold it there, and then go down with the weight. And you can even do like half exercises where you pull it not quite or only to the point where you can feel it a little bit tender there and then go back down. But my time under tension when I work with my legs is different for each exercise based on what I'm trying to hit. I'm really trying to build up my glutes again. My front of my thighs tend to build really, really quickly. Back of the thighs a little less quickly, but my glutes tend to lag. Probably just because I have a pancake butt. It tends to be round and flat if I'm not working out. But on the donkey kick, I typically go for a 3-second, well, let me see, it's a 1-second push up and then a 3-second release back down. And I'm only taking it to a 90-degree at the bottom versus at the high extension up there. Then I do an exercise. I really don't know what to call this one. I'm sure they have a name for it. I haven't really found it out there on what it's called. I call it chin up for butt. I use the assisted chin up machine, and I step up to it, pop the knee brace down or leg brace down, depending on what gym I'm at, and I will bend the knee that is not in use, keep the weight fairly low here, and I will press down using the heel of my foot, again keeping my time under tension quite a while to really get that glute working. You don't necessarily want to go too heavy on that, or else you start incorporating in the hammies and then everything else. And I'm really trying to build a butt, so on that one, I don't know what you'd call that one. If you know what that exercise is called, maybe it's a stomp, I don't know, then go ahead and put that in the comments below, because I really don't know what to call that one. The next one that I did was the leg extension hip thrust. The best way I've found for building my butt, as far as over the years what's worked for me, is any sort of hip thrust, glute raise. There's a ton of names for them. Sometimes I put my feet up on a bench, sometimes I put my upper body up on a bench, sometimes I'm just laying flat with like a ball or a weight on my hips. Kind of depends. Recently here I found that I can get a much higher weight if I do it on the leg extension machine. I'll go over and adjust the setting for where the kick part is that sets against your shins, so it's a lot higher, and then I'll slide up under it and start my air humping for everybody to stare at. I don't understand why people stare at you when you're doing an exercise. Clearly if it's working, if you can see them working on it and they're sweating and they're really getting it, it must be working, so why stare? I don't know. You're not working on what I'm working on, so I'm not really caring anyways. The next one that I do is the one leg press. I end up turning a little bit to one side. I keep the weight really low on this. I have to adjust the machine so then that way I only get a 90-degree angle for my knees at the lowest point. And this is one of those where I typically do 20 reps just because I can't go as heavy as I want to, and 15 just doesn't seem to be enough with the weight to really get that burn in there. Let's see, then I do something that looks a little funny. I do the regular abduction for the legs, but then I do an abduction squat on the machine. I know I've already been sitting there going back and forth with the bands left and right, and I'll even do some for the inner and the outer thighs as I'm doing this, but this one is really to work it, not just to warm it up. And the squat part of it is something that looks ridiculous. So you put your feet where they should normally sit, kind of stand up. I have to grab the front of the machine and then go into the squat and then really start to do the opening and the closing motion. Looks ridiculous. It works. It works for me. Maybe you should try it and see what you think, or maybe it just looks too ridiculous and you're not really into that. I don't know. The next one that I do is a pull through. I do this on the cable machine. I set the setting really, really low. I put a rope hand hold onto it, and basically I do a modified good morning, or even in some cases, depending upon how I stand, it can also be considered like a deadlift almost. But I really, really squeeze when I get up to the top on my glutes, and basically, if you're squeezing so hard that you're giving yourself a dimply butt, then you're really working your butt. Even though it looks ugly and it looks gross there at the gym, I promise later on it works fantastic and it'll make your butt look great outside of the gym. There's a lot of these for glutes that people stare at, and I can't really fathom why, because if you even look online a little bit, you'll find these exercises pretty easily. I don't know. Then I ended up doing a seated curl as well as a prone curl, a laying curl. I said earlier that the front of my thighs build really, really nicely, really quickly. My back of my thighs is not necessarily a lagging part. It builds more average than the rest of my body. On this one, you do have to take note on the position of your feet. On quite a few of these, actually, you can change what you're working based on the position of your feet while you're working it. You can turn your feet in, you can turn your feet out, or you can keep your feet straight on this one. And sometimes I'll do a little bit of all three of those to really get the different parts of the leg as I'm doing it. But try it for yourself, see what you think. See how it feels. I know on me, people tend to recommend doing the leg press in a certain manner, and the way that they say that it works for them for glutes or inner or outer thigh is not quite the same as how it works for me. I don't know, maybe I'm doing something wrong, I'm not really certain. But after I do my leg curls, I end up doing the adduction machine. I do this pretty traditionally, nothing fantastic. I do keep my weight on the abduction and the adduction the same. Part of the problem with my knees is the instability on the inner versus the outer of the knee, and it makes sense to me to keep the weight the same, to try and keep the stability the same. Once I start to notice a difference, then I can really get in there and switch it on up. But for right now, I'm keeping the weight the same on both of those. Then I end up doing a leg extension, and I know this one has gotten a really, really bad rap. It is notorious for destroying people's knees, and I hear it all the time. Wait, you do leg extension? Yes, I do leg extension, but this is one of those where I keep the weight low and the reps really, really high. And not to mention on this one, I ended up having the first time that I worked on it where my knees would click. And I stopped doing it immediately because I knew that that was something to do with the instability that I have in my knee currently. In knees, I'm sorry, plural. And I told my doctor what was going on with it. He actually ended up going to the gym and doing the exercise and then coming back and being like, this is what you need to do. So when I do this, I keep the weight low, I keep the reps high, and I point my toes inwards. Previously, when I was not hurt, I did do a full spectrum of those, going with the feet pointed out, the feet pointed in, as well as going straight. I do notice that that works really lovely for the front of your legs when you're trying to build them. That's when you're going with a much heavier weight than I'm doing, but if you have the opportunity, try it. You don't have to like turn your feet all the way out so they're parallel to the ground or anything, or turn them really, really far in to the point where you're just uncomfortable and it looks weird. Just a little bit of a tilt makes such a difference on that one. So try it for yourself. Tell me what you think. It's really, really great for building the different parts of the front of the thigh, especially if you're prepping for a show or you just really want to have some awesome quads. Then I ended up doing something that I haven't done in a bit, and I was really, really excited for this one. I've been doing my calf raises standing this whole time because I've been too afraid to do them seated. I tend to go pretty heavy on my seated calf raise, and I was just very afraid of how my knees would react to all that weight being put just above where the knee brace sits. And so this day I actually ended up doing seated calf raises, not super heavy like I would normally do, but oh my lord, it was fantastic. They were a little sore the next day, but I got no inflammation out of it. It was pretty much just where the pads were rubbing against my knee braces and chafing me. But that is another great exercise for you to change the position of your feet on to work the different parts of the calf. Again, you're not having to turn your feet like all the way one way or the other. Go a set straight, turn your feet just a little bit towards each other, turn your feet just a little bit away from each other, really not changing the position a whole hell of a lot, but give it a try and tell me what you think. I found that it works the different parts of my calves and makes them look really, really nice. I haven't really been able to do that a lot here recently, so this was actually my first time getting to do that. And it was definitely a really good ass kicking that my calves needed that I haven't been able to do. So I hope that that is just not too much information, not too little about what I did for my exercises. If you have any questions or comments, or you know the name of that exercise, the chin up for butt, I really don't know what it's called. Maybe it's a stomp, maybe it's I don't know, a kick, I really don't know. If you know the name for it, please be sure to comment below, and please like and subscribe. These are only going to get better. I'm still learning how to use the software, so bear with me right now. It's been a heck of a ride trying to get it to work with my computer. But I hope you guys have a great day. I hope these aren't too boring. If you have any recommendations for me on things that I can do to make this better, please by all means comment below. But go kick today's ass. You're awesome.